You're known by many as the exiled Crown Prince of Iran, the son of the last Shah of Iran. You have consistently said that you're not seeking a role as leader, but you are saying now that you would like to have a role as a sort of trustee in a transition process towards a secular democracy. Can you explain a little bit about what that role would entail?
The role that I'm offering in this process of transition is to be of help to maintain a smooth process, to maximize the participation of democratic forces in this process. I'm doing this in collaboration with those who are active outside of Iran, in direct contact and communication with those within Iran who be in majority the people who would feel the vacuum post-regime. So it is imperative that we have a good game plan.
So why should people trust you to fulfill such a role?
Because I think they understand through 40 years of work towards trying to free our country what my positions have been. I clearly said that we who are trying to be your advocates outside the world to communicate your voice to the international community would certainly benefit from having a more discernible advocacy mandate from you guys, so we won't be questioned as to whether this is truly representing the aspirations or the ask that our compatriots have from the international community, legislators, political leaders, and decision makers.
One of the problems in the past 43 years in toppling this regime has been that there is no clear alternative leader. There's diverse groups, there's diverse ideologies, but no one clear leader that someone can sort of present as an alternative to the current Islamic Republic. Are you worried that someone might take over that might not be representative of the Iranian people's desire for freedom in a secular democracy?
We are past the era where the singular person articulates or represents the entire project. Yes, there are people of influence, there are people who have been impactful, from Mahatma Gandhi to Nelson Mandela and the sorts, but none of these leaders were able to do it alone. There were so many hands at play, so many distribution of roles. So the world needs to understand that it's not going to be one person, example, yours truly, all of a sudden stepping in and define the entire package in all by myself.
So to that end, what more do Western leaders or leaders around the world need to do to support the Iranian people's desire for freedom? And you're currently travelling to meet with politicians, so what are you asking for?
We appreciate the fact that the world has elevated some levels of further sanctions against the regime, but sanctions are not sufficient. Internet access is critical at this phase. Another thing that the world can start doing, which will aid the campaign of resistance and ultimately the collapse of this regime, is what I think is the ultimate level of pressure from within, which are sustained labor strikes to paralyze the regime and at the same time limit the cost of change to the Iranian nation. There has to be a mechanism of compensation. We are not asking the rest of the world to pay for it. Iranian money exists in the sense of frozen assets of the regime, which is after all the Iranian people's money, that could be repurposed and retasked to finance the strike fund.
There's still discussion among some countries that this regime can be reformed. So in that context, are you fearful that this latest wave of protests might fail?
You can decrease the level of sacrifice and deaths and cost of change to Iranians if you show solidarity with them, if you show that you are taking steps to aid them. When you have a regime that deployed tanks and artillery to regions in the country like Kurdistan to kill their citizens, for what? They march on their own citizens. Can such a regime be reformed? The disappearance of the regime would simultaneously eliminate all the existing threat, whether it's the nuclear issue, radical religious elements, the spread of terrorism in the region, the support of this regime to terrorist groups, the problem of immigrants that are going to become even more, going to countries that are already saturated with refugees and they can no longer absorb more of them. All of this because this regime continues to exist.
As the son of the last Shah of Iran, no doubt your family would have had a lot of discussions about the 1979 revolution and the lessons that you've learnt from that. What are some of those lessons that you learnt?
First and foremost, one that I can say is you understand the merits of the issue of secularism and separation of religion from state as a primordial principle and precondition to democratic order. And that we learned it the hard way after 43 years of a religious dictatorship. That doesn't mean that at the end of this cycle, we have to necessarily define our liberty by being antagonistic to faith or religion, which should be a private thing in the first place, regardless of which religion exists in Iran. Civil society, watchdogs in society, that have everything under scrutiny. So again, you don't have a concentration of power or a deviation for the democratic path or the potential for corruption. These are all the lessons that we have learned, let's say at least in the past century of Iran's political evolution.
Reza Pahlavi, thank you very much for your time and your insights.
Thank you so much.